I'm thinking let's do like have a quick introduction, and I'll just
Okay.
as if we just turn on the camera and you'd be like, hey,
Okay.
and then we
Yeah.
can go from there. Yeah.
All
So
right. That sounds good.
you want to start?
For sure. So, my name is Katherine Colburn-Swartz. I'm the HR generalist at Olympia Financial Group. And actually, in addition to that, in my spare time, I volunteer with an organization called the Gold Mine Project. And I have recently been voted into the president position, which I'm very excited about. I had been the secretary and event planner for the last couple of years, and I've just recently taken that seat. So, very passionate about my community, connecting to people, and just ultimately helping people find their passion in life. So that's why I'm here today.
Hey,
Yeah.
Catherine. Well, great to see you. It's been a while. It's been a year almost. My name is Miro Reljic, and we met last year, I believe, at Manpower's event.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I'm a professional coach. I'm passionate about coaching people and mentoring people. And I consult for a cannabis company in all places. And it's been an interesting experience. And the reason we decided to do this call is to talk about how to connect to people, how to really connect with people. And I think that today there's actually two options. One is connecting physically in person like we did last year, and also virtually. And I think this is something that in both instances is being overlooked, that some people are either too pushy or they don't know how to properly connect. So what do you think? Shall we jump into it?
Yeah, let's get into it. I definitely think, COVID has presented us many silver linings and opportunities, the ability to connect with one another instantly. Mira and I were in, totally different locations right now, and yet we're getting the chance to chat and discuss these really important things today. So, I do believe that there's a lot of different technology at our fingertips now, and yeah, it can be quite easily overlooked. So the ability to hop onto LinkedIn, send messages to folks in hiring departments, people who own small businesses. That was something that wasn't possible before,
No.
Yeah, so it's quite exciting that and people are more open to those messages as well as a result of COVID. Folks who would have maybe not been so keen on meeting over Zoom, now that they do it every day, it's something that just, rolls off water on a duck's back, right? So, it's definitely a time when if you want to connect with a professional who you felt was out of reach, it's the time to do it.
Exactly. So what do you think? And I'm having this thought, when someone sends you a message and you don't know them, and the moment they say hi, they start bombarding you with you need this, you want this. I personally get offended by these messages because I'm like, you don't even know me. And they just start like the moment you connect quote on LinkedIn with someone, they just start sending these messages one after another. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, and I think it's important to remember that even though you can't see the person's face, a conversation goes both ways, right? So waiting for that person to respond, if they've clearly viewed your message, maybe that's a sign that, they don't have the time to answer right now. So maybe follow up in a couple months, not necessarily the same week. A lot of people are busy, and there's a lot of things going on both in people's personal lives and due to COVID as well. Mental health, that's huge. So yeah, to be sending repeat messages can be a little bit tiresome and hard for some professionals. So be able to say, hey, XYZ, this is why I wanted to connect with you. This is a small piece on why I wanted to reach out. Maybe it was something that, you attended one of their events, or, hey, you saw a LinkedIn post that really, we really connected on that. You said, you know what, I totally understand that. So whether it's to say, hey, love this post, I absolutely feel the same way. I'm going to send you a quick message to chat more. I think that's a really a warmer way to, welcome yourself and say, hey, I know we've been connected for a little bit, but I did want to just, reach out and say hello, and get to know you a little bit better. I think that's a much warmer way and a better way to reach out to folks. How have you kind of found, Miro, that, for you, what ways have you been reached out to that you felt were a little bit more warm and received better?
Thank you very much for asking. Actually, everything you said resonates with me, and I want to paraphrase that again, because exactly what you said, I'm thinking, is that it's important to do research about a person, and it's important to see what they talk about, what they like, what do they need, and just connect with them, not from a perspective of a benefit, because that's what I get from a lot of people. How can they benefit from Miro? Which kind of makes this uncomfortable situation that I'm speaking to a stranger who wants something from me and is being very aggressive. So everything you said absolutely resonates with me. And also, I think our connection is actually a really good example, because we've met last year, I think in February, just before everything shut down.
Just weeks. We got
right?
very lucky.
Like I spoke at I think it was a Manpower event. And I think I said hi, or at this point.
I can't really quite remember anymore, because we had partnered with the Gold Mine Project had partnered with Manpower for an event. We had a few other presenters. One of the other folks on the team had, requested that you join the event and that you speak. And so you and I had never spoke. And there was no reason for you to really know who I was at the time, because you and I had never truly interacted. And yet, you were warm, you welcomed everybody. And you just simply pulled me to the side, and we just started chatting and joking around, which I think is like another way to people's hearts as well, just getting to know them and having the time to joke around a little bit. We filmed a fun little video, and it was just a nice way to really connect. And then, afterwards you followed up as well, which was a really nice thing for me, because I was like, oh, he's genuinely, took that time and did want to really connect. And again, it was more on that personal note, right? So it was really great and really wonderful. And that's why, from that moment on, it was like, I want to work with Miro in the future. And then COVID happened. So life's been fun, but I was so excited to, again, Miro reached out once again, made a fun post and poked at the fact that, oh my goodness, it's been a year since COVID. And look what we were doing, only a year ago, we were able to meet in person and to have those events. Right. So it was definitely, again, just having those nice little warm connections, warm handoffs, being able to joke around. For me, I mean, if you can't laugh, then you're crying, right? So you might as well have fun. So
exactly. And actually, like now I remember it was the presentation I spoke about was actually the power of effective networking.
It was,
it really is just like now, like, oh my God. And at that time, it was all about connecting in person. And even back then, a lot of people, it was a really big problem. People don't know how to connect genuinely with someone, especially if there is an agenda. And I think that that's what's holding people back. In your case, you work in HR. And if someone reaches out to you, hey, I'm looking for work, for a job, right away, there's a disconnect. Because you don't have that job in your pocket. It's like you pull it out and he's like, here's a job for you. It's like,
I wish it worked that way. That would be much easier.
Right?
It's true. It's very true. And I know, obviously times are very hard right now, and people, you're getting desperate. You're truly wanting to find that purpose in your life. And it is important to, at the end of the day, having those informational interviews is more important. Having the time to connect with an HR professional, a hiring manager, an executive, like to have those conversations and maybe not have that hidden agenda. People then, like you said, kind of take off that, guard that they may have up, and they'll really just be able to sit back and have a conversation with you. And then they may be able to, then they'll follow you in their toolbox and say, oh, you know what, this job's opening up in the next month. Maybe I'll reach out to this person because they really connected, and I feel like they'll be a team fit. Again, rather just looking at a person as a skill set, right? The executive, if they've had time to get to know you a little bit, they'll then be able to actually picture you as a part of their team. And I think that's very important. So yeah, no, you're very right, Miro.
Yeah, like you've nailed 3 things there that are really important. I think that the first one is people are desperate. And if you're desperate, fine, but you don't have to, someone doesn't have to show that in your face, in my face. The second one that's really important is for our informational interviews. And oh my God, we can speak about this another time, but again, it's a skill. It's something that people don't utilize. It's a hidden tool.
Yeah.
And the third one that you mentioned is being a good fit. Will someone be a good fit? And having said or paraphrased everything you've just mentioned, if someone is desperate, i.e. clingy, disrespectful, I mean, red flags right away.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I have it happen like quite frequently because for me, my way that I seek candidates is either LinkedIn, Glassdoor, Indeed. And of course, like when folks do inbox me, I do take those quite, I look at that as a person who's going above and beyond, and how that is executed is so important. I have hired many people who have just sent me a message, and you know what, I filed that away because they were super, they were professional, they made that connection with me. So if done right, it can be a huge tool to utilize in your job search.
Great. And do you mind sharing what in those messages, what did stand out in your mind that really, you were thinking, or it was just like, oh, this is a good candidate. I want to connect with these people. Would you mind sharing what an insider kind of look?
For sure. Well, I think back to a fellow who's actually a part of the Olympia team now, so I won't say his name, but he had reached out and he said, hey, a fellow in my network, I happen to know him, and he said that you would be a person that I should connect with, which then instantly gives me that association, which I think is super important. And the fact that I knew that this person had referred him to me, I was like, okay, there's obviously a reason why he's been sent my direction, which is also good. From there, he had said, hey, like this, I would like to get to know more about the business that you're in, and not necessarily saying, hey, I'm looking for an X position and I have this skill set. It's like, hey, I just want to learn more about your business. And from there, I'm like, oh, he's just kind of wants to learn more, maybe kind of see if he would be a fit, maybe not a fit. But again, just, trying to find his place. So from there, actually, I didn't respond to his email. It was just when we had been going through COVID, and it was just a month or two in. I was still working from home, and I think I had sent him a quick email back being like, oh yeah, for sure, we can definitely connect in the next couple months. Anyways, he did follow up in the next couple months and said, hey, like, I understand you're busy. These are fun times we're in right now, but I would still genuinely like the opportunity to meet you. In which I was like, oh my goodness, yes, of course. Like, this guy not only, sent me one message, but now he sent me a second one, super polite, wasn't very much, in my face. It was very much like a step back saying, hey, I understand you're busy, but I would still love to meet you. Which I really enjoyed. So I did go for coffee with him at Starbucks. I learned more about just him. He didn't say, hey, I worked at this position, this position, this position. He just told me his life story. And I got to tell him a little bit of mine too. So again, he came into that. He didn't have an expectation of a position. And actually after that, a couple of months later, I followed up with him and I said, hey, you mentioned that you do this line of work. Are you still looking for a job even at this point? Because it's been 6 months since you originally reached out to me. And he said, yes, actually, like I would love to do, like, that's what I'm trained in. That's what I'm educated in. Like, I would love to do that. And so, yeah, we actually went through the interview process with him, and he was hired on, and he's been with us now. He just had his 6-month mark with Olympia now. So it is very cool to have those stories and to be able to see people as they go through their career. So that, for me, that was one example of an interaction that I had that led to someone, joining the team. So yeah, just definitely, putting yourself out there, but making sure, like, again, you said, maybe not to have those desperation ties, to like try to shed those off and just go into it and genuinely convince yourself that you're just there to learn, just there to open yourself up to the opportunity, and the person across the table will sense that too.
Thank you very much for sharing, Katherine. This is actually a great example, and I would like to paraphrase this back to you. And this is how I work as a professional coach. This is my bread and butter. And and I really want people, when I train them, everything you said is and I've talked to thousands of people, and everything you said, this is actually a perfect example. And I want you to hear it back, because I want our viewers to hear it back. So the first thing I noticed, it was, hey, Katherine. So it wasn't dear Katherine, hello, Katherine, Miss or Mrs. or, whatever people just throw. Like, it was just very simple. And I think that opening line is so important.
Yeah.
In that opening line, this person basically said, hey, I am recommended by someone, which is making life easier to you. And I would really like to highlight this for our viewers. They have to make it easy for you, for not to make it difficult.
Yeah.
So it was a referral, great. Basically, then he made it about you. This is it's not about him, what he wants. And this is, I think, a big problem for people, because initially, right away, they say, oh, I want this, and I want this. But by the way, Katherine doesn't have a job in her pocket. You can want it as much as you want.
Yeah.
But there's no opportunity. You don't even know that person.
Yeah, absolutely.
The third thing I'm noticing, he was really gentle. He wasn't abrasive. He was patient. He gave you space. And I think that a lot of people forget that giving space to another person is really, really important, because it's not about them. It's a two-way street.
Yeah.
And that's actually, I think I've heard that you mentioned that there was a good conversation. It wasn't a monologue. And I think a lot of people get caught up in that. It's a monologue of what they want.
Yeah.
And then you went to see you met with this person, and you talked about yourself. He talked a little bit about himself. You determined there was a fit. There was a follow-up. And when an opportunity happened, basically you were like, oh, I know one person who will be a good fit.
Yeah. Well, and also too, like, he just made when we actually got to meet in person, he made it very easy. He said, I'll come to you, rather than I've had folks where, I've driven to the south, I've driven to the north, because again, I do want to help people, but he made it very convenient for me so that I could slot him into my day and make it a little bit more natural for my schedule, right? So that was another thing that I really, really appreciated. Yeah,
that's a really, really great tip. Thank you again for sharing that, because like, if you have to drive 25 kilometers, and then I don't know if this happened to you, but I know I've driven sometimes to a meeting and a person is a no-show.
Yeah.
It doesn't make a good impression, right? And then basically half our day is gone. And then I'm like, well, why am I doing this? I'm trying to help someone.
Yeah.
And so making it easy, it's a great point.
Yeah. Well, it just shows that he's not thinking about what's best for him. He's genuine, like, how can I make this easier for you? And I thought that was, definitely a nice nod, and it went a long way in my books.
Good. Anything else that you would recommend?
Not necessarily when it comes to reaching out to recruiters, hiring managers, what have you. Again, just, keeping your conversation very much light, not necessarily, it has to be professional, but the formalities of it, if you are looking to create that genuine connection, if you keep putting, like you said, Mr. or Mrs., it can be a little bit tougher to feel like they're just trying to genuinely have a conversation with you. And then, taking a chance, putting yourself out there, not necessarily following up right away, but, following up in the future and saying, hey, I know you're busy. Again, just shows that you're thinking about them and their schedule.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? And sometimes people are not married, putting that Mr. or whatever, sometimes it makes actually people, it may make them uncomfortable because we don't know them. So we don't want to make anyone uncomfortable. And I think that's something that a lot of people, because they're so desperate, or they don't have a job, or or they're not happy. They have a job, but they're not happy in their role. So they're really pushing it to find something else, but it doesn't work.
Yeah, it's not natural. If that's not how you would interact usually, then don't do it. Don't do it. It's like, yeah. But yeah, I don't know, beyond that, Miro, maybe, you are the networking master. What are some tips and tricks that you think that, folks should really have a listen to?
Well, everything you said, and that's why I was really looking forward to this conversation, because we connected on a deeper level, and you and I, we really don't know each other. So this is for for our viewers. We met once, but we are people. I know I'm a people person, and I read people fairly well. And if I connect with someone, I will maintain that relationship. But in our case, we didn't talk like 20 times. It was last year once.
Yeah.
Maybe once we followed up, and actually then I said, hey, let's do something, because people will benefit from this. And what you mentioned, I think it really resonated deeply with me, and I agree with it 100%, is that when we connect with someone on LinkedIn, it's important not to be overbearing. And it's not about that. It's not about the person that, if I connect with someone, it's not about me. It's I will say hi to that person. And what you said, oh, we met at this event, or how are you doing? COVID is actually COVID is a great opportunity for people to connect genuinely. But also some people abuse it. They say, how are you doing? I hope you're well. But then right away, they jump into their agenda. So, and thank you for asking. I think that number one tip from me would be to not jump into your agenda right away, because no one cares about it, about someone's agenda, right?
It's definitely hard to walk the line, and I think every connection you make is so important. Like, they've obviously been put into your life for a reason. So even those folks, if you interview and you don't get the job, if you've got those people on LinkedIn, send them a message, say thank you. I would love to just remain a connection of yours. I understand, this position wasn't for me, but in the future, I would definitely love to be considered for other opportunities. And I've had it where, we don't necessarily select one person for one department, but we bring them on into another department just because that person followed up with me and they said, you know what, that hasn't knocked me down. I still want to join Olympia. So, people are brought into your life for a reason, and it's not awkward unless you make it awkward. So I definitely think that, even those times where you feel like you've been shot down, to show that that hasn't affected you, and that if anything, you're still remaining professional, you're still interested in the company, that's huge.
Absolutely. Like, that is so huge, and making it fun and easy and polite. I think that people forget that being polite is really, really important. And being rude and abrasive and possessive and clingy and all these things will actually, it's a turnoff. There's no other way to put it. And I'm like, okay, and seriously, this is a true story. I have 2 buckets. mental buckets, you know. I'm like,
Yeah.
bucket where I have my people I want to speak to, I want to see them, I want to talk to, I want to develop this connection, I want to really build this relationship. And then I have another bucket where I'm like, oh, okay, this person goes to the second bucket, and I don't see it often because it's just, I know I'll be drained. I know
Yeah.
there's like high expectations. I know that oftentimes people will project. This is something else that's really important. They will project their fears onto me. And I'm like, I got nothing to do with this. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. In a time where negativity is very prevalent, to be that sunshine in someone's day is important, and it, obviously make it so it has to be genuine, of course. But no, I definitely understand what you're saying.
Yeah, so to end this conversation on a positive note, because it is a positive and great conversation, so let's highlight the tips, positive tips for our audience in what they have to do, or what are your suggestions to make great connections and real connections.
I would say number one, make sure that you're going into it with no expectations. Zero expectations is the best way to go into that connection. My second recommendation would be to show that you have a link with that person. If you're just sending a message from the darkness, and it's much easier if it's a warmer handoff, right?
Yeah.
And thirdly, those communications, make sure that they're polite, make sure that they're real. And to, when you're sending a message, it doesn't have to be 6 paragraphs. It can be a quick, hey, how are you today? Just wanted to reach out, see, if we can maybe connect. I've seen, even for myself in my career, just sending those messages to people. Again, even with COVID, they've are so much more responsive now than they have ever been before. And I know that for a fact because I've seen the transition myself from, not necessarily having folks respond to having people who I never thought in my life I'd get to chat with, right? So, if there's any time, it's no time like the present. So don't be scared, put yourself out there.
Absolutely. Those are great tips. And I agree 100% with you. Thank you so much for joining me today, Katherine. I look forward to our next video, if there's an opportunity, of course.
Yeah.
And I'm really glad we've done this.
Me too. Yes. So nice chatting with you. As always, I can say now that I've met you for a second time.
Thanks, Miro. You're welcome.